So hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome here if you're new. I'm Ellie and I talk about my journey in and out of Islam. I used to be a convert to Islam, lived as a Muslim for many years, and yeah, these days I just come on here to share my experience, share my honest experience of living as a Muslim, because I want people to be informed. The things that I went through, I want people to avoid if they can, because my journey was really, really bad. It was actually something that really negatively impacted my life in many ways. So I come onto this channel to spread awareness really about what I went through, and as I said, just helping others not to go down that path either. Yeah, so on that topic, today I'm on here because I actually want to talk about what happens when you leave Islam and the journey you take after you've left religion. Because there's actually a process I found once I left. I had to really regain my life, reclaim my life back again, because Islam did a lot of damage to my life. It did in so many ways that it's hard for me to even be so brutally honest about what happened. So much happened to me while I was a Muslim. So much of my mindset changed, the way I viewed the world, the way I viewed my dreams and aspirations, experiencing life. So much of it changed. So yeah, because I'm a convert to Islam, I guess in our situation it's a bit different, because we do have a life before we join the faith, then we have our life while we're Muslim, and then if you leave, if you become an ex-Muslim, then you have to once again live your life again as a non-Muslim. And I've spoken about the entry into Islam. I've spoken about a few issues now about the things I found out once I was a Muslim, but I haven't really touched on what it was like to leave and the process to regain my freedom. Because yes, I would go as far as to say I had to literally regain my freedom again. And I'm just here to share my experience and to kind of share my little piece of experience about what happened when I had to kind of go back to my life before. And it was really interesting because I felt like I was such a different person after I left Islam. So I really had to work my way back to readjust myself to life as a non Muslim. And I want to share that with you because I think it could be helpful for anyone listening who might be going through that now, who might be thinking, oh my gosh, if I leave Islam, what's it going to be like? I'm kind of going into, I guess, a kind of new reality. Because what people don't realize, unless you've lived as a Muslim and as a really believing Muslim, that Islam is like a set of beliefs. It's a religion, yes, but it's also a way of life. It encompasses all areas of your life. It's very powerful. So some people might find the transition very easy, depending on how you grew up, I guess, or where you were at. Yeah, so I wanted to share my experience of how it was going back to life as a non-Muslim and how I did it and kind of where I'm at now. I guess before I can really start explaining what I had to do or what it was like going back to my non-Muslim life, really I should start with explaining how much Islam changed me. I don't think it fundamentally changed me as a person, because nothing can really do that. We're born with certain personality traits, and then like our childhood and stuff kind of informs who we are. Our experience as a younger person, a child, teenager. So I had that basis in me. That was who I was. I think I said in one of my other videos, I shifted my mindset to where it was like everything was for Allah, and I kind of gave up self-inquiry, and I gave up thinking that I had kind of any agency in life, because I believed that everything was down to Allah, and all I had to do was really trust in Him and give myself over to Him. And I was just trying to follow, the Quran, the Hadiths, the Seerah, the example of the Prophet. That's what I was trying to get my guidance from there. So you can imagine what that looks like. So yeah, I was the place I found myself at when I started to leave Islam was, number one, I was very, very isolated at that point, because when I was Muslim, I did cut off a lot of people I knew from my past because I was just kind of embarrassed. I didn't want to have to explain why I couldn't have pepperoni pizza, or why I wouldn't wear certain clothes, because my friends from the past knew me as a certain Ellie. They knew me as I don't know how to say it. They knew me as someone who was like, uh, well, they knew me as a very fun-loving person who had a lot of energy, who kind of enjoyed experimenting with different fashions. And I was very, very, how do I say it? I was kind of very adventurous in all that I did, starting to dress much more modestly. I mean, I'm not talking about like the hijab or anything, but like I genuinely stopped like even showing my arms, because the more religious I got, I was implementing that. And then what happens is you kind of you I don't know if the word's paranoid, but you get very anxious about showing those pieces of skin, or like shaking hands with men, and eating pork. Like, I would not eat pork in front of my friends, and I didn't tell a lot of them. I just didn't want to explain what was happening, why I was doing this, why I was changing. So I did something terrible, which was just avoiding everyone. And I actually moved to a part of London where I knew nobody. I moved somewhere where I knew no one. I was completely isolated. The only person I knew was my ex-partner, who that's where he was living, and that's where I moved. And I decided to, at such a young age, to completely leave everything I had known and live in a complete new area, and no social support, just on my own with my partner. And you can imagine how isolating that was. Like, I have compassion for myself now, but I still get annoyed that I did that. I had no guidance though, as I've said in my past videos. Like, I didn't have any guidance. Like, it's not like I had any responsible adults who could say to me, don't make that decision. And my friends, as I said, my friends just didn't understand why was I doing this to myself. They didn't understand what was going on because I wasn't being honest. And not only that, my mental health at the time was really taking a dark turn. And I think my friends saw that too, and then they just didn't know what to do, because they were like, what's happened to Ellie? Like, she used to be someone so different, and they just didn't understand what was happening. And to be honest, I didn't understand. I was just going along. It's not really funny, but I had no idea. And I just had this new religion, which was my guide and comfort. And it wasn't comforting, but that's what I was doing. So I isolated myself. Um, I, as I said, moved to an area. I had no clue where I was going. I just took a leap of faith. And all the time I was thinking, this newfound religion, this newfound community faith is going to see me through. And it didn't. It didn't. So, as I've said in one of my other videos, the deeper I got into Islam, the more problems I got in my personal life. But the way Islam primes you to think is that whatever is happening is good for you. I was just basically convincing myself that this was all right. This was something good was going to come out of it. And I used to pray to God a lot to help me in my situation, to help me improve my life, because it was the isolation and it was the loss of all that I loved and everything I'd worked for. I gave up pursuing my dreams because I believe that being a housewife, kind of a good obedient wife or whatever, was the goal. As I said, my mental health got a lot worse because of the depression. I mean, these things like isolation, loneliness are not good for depression anyway, and it just made everything worse. So I don't know why. I mean, I've said in my story, it was the last piece of truth from a good time in my life that actually tipped me over the edge. And that moment, that sparked me to be brave, and looking at other things and thinking, I don't know, this is my last hope. And then discovering ex-Muslims online who literally saved me. And that's not an exaggeration. They saved me from so much. So yeah, so by the time I found myself now, like, what was it, like so many years down the line, I knew I've left the religion now, and it was time to regain freedom again. But this is why I want to talk about the kind of elements of coming out of Islam, because actually, for me, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. It was quite difficult actually, because it was like, okay, I have to change my lifestyle now. But I will say one thing, which, and this is my advice to anyone from my own experience, and something I think is really important here. Like in my case and many others, there are people around the world who don't want to be Muslim anymore, and they come from much more, they come from countries where it's so risky to even do this. Yet they still leave, even if it's just secretly in their mind. And the reason people do that is because of truth. So when you leave, you're taking that brave decision because you are aligning yourself with what you believe is true or what you know to be true. And that is so fundamental and important to hold on to, because obviously I'm a convert, so my situation was different. I don't have a huge family pulling me back, or I don't have in-laws that are coercing me into staying or something like that, or I don't live in a country where women have no rights or something. So I am coming from a place of privilege, but I know there are so many ex-Muslims all over the world who have done something which is the fundamental step, which is to accept and to claim and to take your own life into your own hands. And that step is one of those steps in life which is like monumental, and it's so empowering and it's so brave, and it's, as I said, it's life changing, just acknowledging that in your mind, that I don't believe this anymore. That's what I was clinging on to as well, was like, I don't know how I'm going to go back to who I was before. I don't know what my future is going to look like, but all I know is that I have done the right thing. I've done the right thing, because I can no longer subscribe to something that I do not believe in. Yeah, I don't know if I've said this in one of my other videos, but there's that quote that says, "Truth will set you free." And it's so true. It's like, it really does. Like, we just know when something isn't right, when something feels wrong, like when we're being forced to do something as humans. It doesn't, actually, not just humans, everything, every living creature does not like to be chained, doesn't like to be forced into situations that's not good for them. Because I guess it's contradictory to life. Life is meant to be expansive. It's meant to be, life is obviously meant to be lived. So the minute we box ourselves into something which we don't feel is true to us anymore, we start to get really miserable. So as I said, the first step when you leave Islam, which I found, and I think a lot of people find, is just taking peace in knowing that you have done what's right for you, even if it's just saying it in your mind, because you're living in a place where it's not safe to come out and say it. And I always say safety first, right? Don't be an ex-Muslim publicly if it's not safe. Like, don't ever do that to yourself. Just secretly acknowledge that this is not it for me. And that's so empowering. And that's the most important thing of all, is that you regained your freedom. I don't have to pretend. I don't agree with what the Prophet did, and I can now say to myself, I don't have to feel guilty about it anymore. Anything that didn't feel right, now I can say it's not right. And it's so powerful. So yeah, so for me, that was the first step, was just to really sit with the decision I'd made, and sit with the fact that I had done something so brave. But with that, I think once you do leave, though, and you've really sat with it and realized that you no longer believe in this, you're not a Muslim anymore, there will be a lot of emotions that arise because of that decision, because of the choice, and because of that acknowledgement of truth. You might feel a rush of, I don't know, happiness, sadness. Everything's normal. Whatever you feel, just feel it. And I think it's important for everyone to do so, because this is a monumental change. Even if it's just as simple as saying, I'm no longer Muslim, it's a huge change. And especially if you're born into it and it's all you've ever known, and you're like, this is new, you're going to feel a whole different range of emotions. But I think all of those, whatever you feel, it's normal to feel. And then yeah, it was like, after all of those feelings, after all of that kind of epiphany moment, I had to kind of be like, what do I do? Like, what do I do first? And I guess I just said, I'm just going to take it bit by bit, because to be honest, I didn't have the mental energy to just rush out and buy myself a bottle of wine and go to McDonald's and get a Big Mac again. Like, I didn't have that energy. So I said, I'm going to take it like bit by bit. Like, I'm going to, if I, I remember going to a restaurant and just ordering a meal off the menu that wasn't halal, and just taking that time to be like, I haven't done this in so long. And to be like, wow, I'm actually willingly not doing this. And it was quite fun. It was like, I get to enjoy the food. I get to try things now without worrying anymore about being guilty. I don't have to look at all the ingredients. And yeah, and to be honest, like, strangely enough, I didn't feel like eating sausages and bacon straight away. Actually, that was the longest one. I think it was really only in the last, let me see, about 3 years ago. It was 3 years ago when I got back into eating like pepperoni pizza, and like, obviously I love serrano ham. I love jamon from Spain, and chorizo, like all of these things. I was like, oh, I get to eat this again. But I didn't do it straight away, because as I said, it was just like, I'm going to take my time. And that's the great thing, is like, you have the time to go out there and just do what you want guilt free. You no longer have to worry about eating a bacon sandwich or having a pepperoni pizza. And as a woman, another thing was like dressing how I used to dress before. Again, I didn't rush into it, but I was just like, okay, I'm going to experiment again with my fashion and with the clothes I wear, and I can get back into and really enjoying it again, and not being I mean, a lot of this for me is just like guilt. I just used to feel guilty about these things, but it was like unraveling all that guilt and all that learning about all that stuff. So another thing was, I mean, with the friends, this is a really sad part, because I became so isolated. I think I kind of I psychologically suffered from that. So I got really, really scared of talking to people. I got really intimidated by lots of people, and I was really embarrassed of the life I had created for myself. So because of that, I had to, like, I guess I had to kind of like just accept that, but because I had incurred like psychological damage from what I'd gone through, that I had a lot of anxiety now about reaching out to people and stuff. And I just didn't push that, because, as I said, it was too stressful for me. I said, I guess it's like anything. When you've been through something, you just have to really accept that, okay, well, this is part of the recovery process, I guess. I'm still trying to work on my mental health, work on my life, so that I can feel like more of a human again. Another thing that really helped me after I left was still watching videos from the ex-Muslim community online, or I know the Reddit group. I used to be on there back in the day. Like, I really love that Reddit subreddit for ex-Muslims. It's great. And only do this obviously if it's safe to do so. If you're in a house where people are going to be looking at your internet history, like, obviously don't do that, or be really, really safe. Obviously safety first. But the ex-Muslims online, like on YouTube, were like a fundamental step for me. They help you so much, because you feel like you can relate to people, and there's always great content being put out. So many supportive people, like here, like in my comment section, there's just, everyone is so supportive. There's so many other people in your situation, and other people who are not even non-Muslims, but they're willing to listen to our stories. And it's just that support, even if the support is virtual, it's still so important, because that will help you to not feel that you're on your own. Because obviously isolation is really bad for any human. So if you're going through this and you've left the religion, to feel that you have a virtual community online that are behind you, they support you. So it's so important to look for that. Whether it's just watching videos, you don't really even have to talk to anyone. you can just watch videos, you can just read people's stories on the subreddit, and it really brings you a lot of peace. And that is you can't even put into words how helpful they are, how helpful that is. Another thing I would say, which was really essential for me, and I think it's helpful for other people as well, was just to have a lot of self-compassion. Right, but I'm speaking more from like a convert's point of view, because I think we can look at ourselves and go, oh my God, like, why did I do this? Why? Like, how did I not see what I was getting into? But I swear, I'm telling you guys, it really, when you see Islam from the outside, it just looks so different to what it is when you're on the inside. So, yeah, self compassion all the way, and understanding of who you were at the time that you became a Muslim, and that personal growth and development is actually something to be proud of. It's a good sign. It means that you accepted you made a mistake, you accepted that this is not for me, and you've learned from it and you've made the right choice now to leave. But yeah, to kind of conclude this video, which was it was just really a kind of personal experience, kind of just sharing what it was like for me, what I kind of found helpful and everything. But do realize that leaving Islam is going to be, I don't know, it's different for every single person. Like, one person's journey is not the same. But the thing that unites us all is that we all took that brave step of acknowledging that we don't believe in this anymore. And trust me, with the way Islam is set up as a religion, it's scary to leave, practically and mentally. When you align with your own truth, that's only a net positive. As long as you're safe, I have to keep reiterating that. And to see Islam through its historical lens, to see the character of Muhammad through a kind of anthropological, psychological lens rather than the lens of a prophet, it's so powerful. And it will just, you just feel like you're growing and growing mentally, expanding your knowledge, expanding your experience of life. And yeah, and just, I guess, being grateful that now you don't have to be under this anymore. You're not under this, you're no longer bowing down to a God who calls you a slave, who demands your submission, and who will send you to hell for the most ridiculous reason, like associating a partner with him. You're free from all that. And as I said so many times, that is something on its own is worth celebrating. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you watched, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a bit about something, or I hope maybe you could relate to something. And as always, thank you so much to every single person who watches or who watched. It means so much to me. So thank you so much. And I hope to see everyone again soon in the next video. And I wish everyone the best.